Okay, let's unpack this. Usually when we pull a document for a deep dive, we're looking at something like a tech white paper or a historical biography.
Sure.
But today we're looking at a set of instructions. And I don't mean instructions for building a shelf from IKEA. We're looking at a protocol for perfection.
And that is such a loaded word.
Hmm.
Perfection. It
Huh?
usually sends people running for the hills.
Incredibly loaded. The document is titled Holiness, Sanctification. Now, if you're listening and your eyes just glazed over
Get it.
because you think you're about to hear, like, a list of archaic rules or thou shalt nots, just stick with us. Because the context here is wild. The author, Prophet Joshua Uwuzi, he isn't just a theologian.
Right, and this is the detail that completely reframed the whole reading for me. He's the founder of a church in Ghana, yes, but his professional background,
Yeah.
he's a biochemist.
Biochemist.
Mhm.
So someone who spends their days in a lab.
Exactly. He deals in molecular structures,
Yeah.
enzymatic reactions, precise formulas. In biochemistry, you don't just hope a reaction happens. No.
You create the conditions, you introduce the reagents, and if you follow the protocol, the result is, well, it's inevitable. It's A plus B equals C.
And that is the vibe of this entire text. It reads less like a sermon and more like a lab manual for the human soul.
It really does.
So the mission for this deep dive is to see if we can sort of reverse engineer his formula. He starts with a premise that feels, honestly, impossible. He quotes the Bible setting the objective. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect.
And most people read that and just think it's hyperbole, right? They think it means, oh, just try your best or be a generally good person. But looking at this text, Uzi seems to be taking it literally.
Completely literal.
He's arguing that this state of perfection, this holiness, it's a tangible state of being that you can essentially manufacture if you just follow the steps.
So let's look at the parameters of this experiment.
Oh.
Before we get to the how, we have to define the what. How does a biochemist define holiness?
Because in pop culture, holiness usually looking like a monk sitting in silence or just someone who's super rigid and never has any fun.
Yeah, and the text actually pivots away from behavior, at least initially, and it focuses on nature. He defines holiness as the very nature of God, but it's the imagery he uses that really struck me.
Okay.
He doesn't describe it as, a heavy chain you wear or a burden of rules. He describes it as beauty.
The beauty of holiness. That's a phrase we hear, but what does that actually mean in this context?
Well, he pairs that idea with another image of the saints being clothed in fine linen, clean and white. So if we're building a mental model here, holiness isn't the absence of fun.
No.
It's the presence of a specific kind of aesthetic. It's a garment. It's what you wear when you want to enter a specific environment.
That completely changes the way you think about it. Instead of a rule book, it's a dress code.
Yeah.
And not even a restrictive one, but a high-end one. Like you're showing up to a gala. You want to look the part.
Precisely. And that leads to the why. Why does this matter? Why go through all this trouble to be perfect? The text is pretty binary on this. And again, this feels very scientific.
It is incredibly binary.
Think chemistry, oil and water. They just don't mix. They're immiscible.
Right.
The text argues that God is holiness.
Yeah.
That is his elemental nature. So if you want intimacy with that being, which is the goal here, you have to share that nature. He quotes a line that says basically, without holiness, no one will see the Lord.
That's a hard barrier. No one will see the Lord. It's not you'll see him, but he'll be disappointed in you. It's a total lack of access.
Correct. It's a compatibility issue.
Ah.
The document also posits that Jesus is returning for a faultless church. So the stakes are absolute connection or absolute separation. There's no middle ground in this framework.
Okay, so we have the goal. Intimacy with the divine. We have the requirement. Structural perfection or holiness. So now, let's get into the how. This is where the document breaks down into what looks like distinct methods. Method A, method B. It really is a manual.
It is. And the first method he lists, which is the foundation of the whole protocol, is the blood.
Now, for anyone with a passing knowledge of Christian theology, the blood of Jesus is a standard concept.
Yeah.
But it's usually just shorthand for forgiveness.
Right. You mess up, you ask for forgiveness, the slate is wiped clean.
Yeah, but Hiwuzi is making a distinction here between atonement and sanctification. Reverse that out.
This is a crucial distinction if you want to understand the mechanism he's proposing. Atonement is legal. It's the courtroom.
Okay.
You are guilty, the fine is astronomical, but someone else pays it. You're free to go. That's forgiveness.
Yeah.
But sanctification?
Yeah.
That's medical.
Medical.
Yes. Atonement handles the penalty of the sin.
Yeah.
Sanctification handles the nature of the sinner. The text says Jesus suffered to sanctify the people with his own blood.
Ah.
So in this framework, the blood isn't just an eraser on a legal pad. It's treated like an active agent, a reagent, to go back to our chemistry analogy.
Mm-hmm.
It actually changes the substance of the person.
So atonement is I'm not in trouble anymore, and sanctification is I'm not the kind of person who does that anymore.
That's the perfect way to summarize it. It's the difference between being pardoned for a crime and being rehabilitated so you never want to commit the crime again.
Which leads directly into method B. And I have to say, the language here shifts from chemistry to surgery. He calls it circumcision of the heart.
This is where the text gets very metaphysical. He's talking about a circumcision made without hands.
A spiritual surgery. But he uses a very specific phrase, putting off the body of the sins of the flesh. It makes sin sound like it has mass, like it's a tumor.
That is exactly the metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
We often view sins as a list of bad choices. I lied, I got angry. We see them as events.
Mm-hmm.
But this document views sin as a foreign entity, a structure living inside the human heart. It's a body. And you can't just talk it away or discipline it away. It has to be cut out.
And since it's without hands, we're talking about a procedure you can't do on your own.
Exactly. He argues that through faith and prayer, a spiritual operation occurs where this body of sin is surgically removed. It's not about suppressing the urge to do wrong.
No.
It's about excising the part of you that generates the urge in the first place.
That's a massive shift in perspective. Most self-help or even religious advice is about management.
Right. Count to 10 when you're angry.
Avoid the bakery if you're on a diet. This is saying remove the hunger entirely.
It's the difference between treating symptoms and curing the disease. The biochemist in him is looking for the root cause.
So we've got the blood as the cleansing agent and the spiritual surgery to remove the tumor of sin. Now we move into the next section, and if we thought surgery was intense, now we're talking about death. Crucifixion.
Yes. Method C, crucifixion of the flesh.
This is based on a passage in Romans, knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him. Okay, old man, define that for us in this context.
The old man is the identity you had before you started this whole process. It's the version of you that is wired for self-interest, for survival, for pride.
Sure.
The document argues that to achieve holiness, you have to accept a paradox. That version of you is already dead.
But that's hard, right? Because I still feel like me. I still wake up with my same memories and my habits.
And that's the challenge the text addresses. It's a cognitive shift. You have to reckon, that's the word it uses, reckon yourself to be dead. Think of it like a change in management.
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine working for a boss who gave terrible orders. Cut corners, lie to the client. Then that boss gets fired, or in this case, dies.
Right.
But then, out of habit, you still do something the old way. You have to remind yourself, wait, I don't work for that guy anymore.
You don't take orders from a dead boss.
Exactly. If the impulse comes up to be jealous or vindictive, the response isn't to fight it with willpower. It's to recognize that the person who wants to be jealous is dead. You disassociate from the impulse.
But then he expands the blast radius. Method D isn't just about me dying, it's about the whole world dying. Crucifixion to the world.
This is based on a line from Galatians. The world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world.
What does that practical separation look like? Is he saying we all need to move to a compound in the desert? Because that's usually where these holiness conversations go off the rails.
No, and that's where the nuance is really important. He talks about a severance of values, not necessarily location. To be crucified to the world means the world system of validation, money, fame, power, trends, it has zero pull on you.
It's like a disconnected phone line.
That's a great analogy. The world can ring all at once.
Mm-hmm.
It can offer you the promotion if you compromise, or popularity if you gossip.
Right.
But there's no signal going through. You are dead to those offers.
That is a tough state to reach. I mean, we are social creatures. We crave that validation.
Which is why he uses the word crucifixion. It's not a gentle drifting apart. It's not unfriending the world.
Yeah.
It's a violent, definitive severing of the tie.
Yeah.
You are killing your need for the world's approval.
So let's recap the protocol so far. We have the blood changing our nature. We have the surgery removing the sin structure. We have the crucifixion killing the old identity. That is a lot of heavy lifting.
It is.
Is this a one-time event? I mean, even if you get surgery, you have post-op care, does the text offer a maintenance plan?
That is the perfect question, because entropy exists, even in spiritual things. Things get messy. You get dusty. And that brings us to method E, the washing of water by the word.
This is my favorite image in the text because it feels the most practical. It connects back to that passage in Ephesians, right?
Yes. Sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word.
So the text itself, the Bible, is the soap.
It's the solvent. The author talks about removing spots and wrinkles. Think about that. Spots are dirt you pick up from walking through the world. Wrinkles imply aging or things getting stale and folded wrong.
It's like a spiritual skincare routine.
In a way. But think about it like cognitive hygiene. If you are constantly bombarded by the news, social media, politics, advertising, your mind gets spotted.
Yeah, it does.
You start thinking cynically. You start compromising on small things. The argument here is that you need a high-volume input of the word to wash that crime off.
It's about recalibration. You expose your brain to the standard so you can see where you've drifted.
Right. You don't take a shower once and say, I'm clean for life. It's a daily application. The biochemist knows contamination is inevitable. You need a sterilization protocol.
And finally, we have method F. This seems to be the engine that keeps the whole machine running. Leading of the Spirit.
This is based on Galatians. Walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh.
I want to look at the order of operations there, because usually religious advice is stop sinning, and then you'll be close to God. But he flips it.
He does. He doesn't say, stop fulfilling the lust of the flesh so you can walk in the Spirit. He says, walk in the Spirit, and then you won't fulfill the lusts.
That's a huge distinction. It's positive action over negative restriction.
Precisely. It's the theory of displacement. You know, two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. If a glass is filled to the brim with water, you can't add oil. If your life is filled with the Spirit, which the text defines as having God's nature, there is simply no room for the flesh.
So instead of waking up and gritting your teeth saying, I won't be angry today, I won't be angry, you just focus on walking in the Spirit? And the lack of anger is just a byproduct?
That is the core of his argument. It shifts the burden from human willpower to divine empowerment. You become a vessel. The vessel doesn't have to try to be full. It just has to remain under the flow.
So when we put this all together, what's the final product? The author concludes by bringing us back to that faultless church.
He does. He quotes another verse about cleansing ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit. The conclusion is really a synthesis. We have the divine actions, the blood, the spirit, and then we have the human actions, the believing, the separating, the washing.
It's a partnership.
It is. You can't perform the surgery on yourself, but you have to walk into the operating room. You have to pick up the water and wash. The document presents holiness not as a lottery ticket you win, but as a result you cultivate.
A plus B plus C equals perfection.
And not just perfection, beauty. That's the key takeaway for me.
That's the note I want to land on. We started this deep dive talking about how intimidating the title holiness is. It sounds rigid, it sounds cold, but the author spends a lot of time trying to rebrand it. He talks about white linen, beauty, no spots, no wrinkles.
He's framing it as desirability.
Exactly. We usually think of holier-than-thou people as judgmental, separate, maybe even repelling. But if we follow this text's logic, if holiness is beauty, shouldn't it be attractive?
It should be magnetic.
Right. If someone is truly clean, truly peaceful, truly without wrinkles in their soul, people should want to be around that. It shouldn't push people away.
That is a profound litmus test.
Yeah.
If your version of holiness is making everyone around you miserable, you might not be following the protocol in this text, because the product described here, this faultless white linen character, it's something radiant. It should draw people in.
A fascinating breakdown of a very complex theological framework. Whether you look at it as a spiritual guide or, a biochemical protocol for the soul, there's a lot to chew on there.
Absolutely. It certainly gives you a new way to look at the rules.
That's it for this deep dive into Prophet Joshua Uzzi's holiness. We'll leave you to think about your own cognitive hygiene routine and whether your spiritual chemistry is balanced. We'll catch you on the next one.